I think all of us at some point sort of have this moment or these series of moments where we start to question the path that we're on. My name is Vinny Jones, and I work full-time here at Ananda Palo Alto in our offices, and also part-time at our Living Wisdom School. I was working in sports thinking that that was sort of the ultimate goal that I had of sports was going to bring me happiness, because it was a huge part of my life growing up, and yet I myself wasn't as happy as I thought I would be, and the people all around me weren't as happy as I thought. So I just started searching for, I don't know if it was necessarily spiritual paths, but just truth in general, and that led me to Ananda.
Ananda is the name of our group, our communities, our group. Ananda, the word itself actually is a Sanskrit word which means joy. So it's to what does Ananda mean to me? Ananda means to me joy. You know, he tells us the whole story of crossing the country and finally getting to see Master, and finally being there. Master says, "What can I do for you?" I'm called Nayaswami Asha. Nayaswami is a title, Asha is my name. I very much wanted to have a life that had meaning, and I wanted a life that would give me real satisfaction, make me really happy. I also wanted to help people in ways that would really count, and I just saw all of it in the life of Ananda. Even though there are lots of good intentions, the way we end up is not where we're trying to be. June 1st, 1971, I was living in San Francisco. I left everything. I went to live in the hills and just threw myself into this, what's now been 45 years of meditation, of building temples, building communities.
We were living in Japan. My wife and I had a camp there. It was on the Seto Naikai, the Japan Inland Sea. It was on an island there. And we had our own little valley right down there. And we had a business there that was destroyed by a typhoon. It was a very serious typhoon, destroyed buildings, and our buildings and cars and buses and all for this educational school camp that we had. Sitting in the wreckage of all that, we were trying to decide what to do next. So we sat down with a book called The Spiritual Community Guide, which had spiritual communities listed all around the world. And we picked out about 6 or 7 that we wanted to visit. But the first one on our list was Ananda, and we never made it to the second community. When it came time to move on to the second community and visit it, it was the people, the nature of the people, really their high quality of character and intelligence and knowledge that we just couldn't imagine leaving them.
I was living in Seattle, and I had started meditating a few months before I actually came to Ananda, maybe a year even. And I was going through a divorce, and I suppose like a lot of people at those times in life, when you're in a crisis, you look for something more than you've experienced. And a friend of mine at the time told me about East West Bookstore, which was up in Seattle. And it's a spiritual bookstore. The original is down here in Mountain View. And I saw that they were giving a meditation class, so I thought, let's take it. Once I took the class, I was really drawn in very quickly. This fellow who gave the class let me know that there was this community that was associated with the bookstore and with the teachings themselves. And once I saw what was there, it didn't take very long before I moved into the actual community. I was asked to come and be the co-manager at East West Bookstore, in fact. And even then, I mean, I spent a few years in some level of misery, honestly, because my behavior was just so erratic. So it took me many years to bring my behavior into focus and with an awareness of how I could control my energy, because that's so central to all of this. It's about energy control, the need for and the ability to learn how to redirect my energy in more positive ways. I worked for a number of years at Stanford in the chemistry department, and I worked with professors and postdocs and grad students. And yet these people were almost universally unhappy, even though they'd achieved by worldly standards tremendous things.
We're so used to putting our energy out into the world, and being really activating and processing things and analyzing things, where meditation is trying to reverse that flow of energy, still being just as dynamic, but in an inner way, sort of, instead of going outward, pulling all our energy inward and then directing it in a positive way. So along with that has a lot to do with the mind and quieting the mind and getting to a place of clarity.
There are very clear techniques that we teach that Yogananda brought. There's sort of a sequence of meditation techniques that we have, the highest of which, and that which is of greatest benefit, is called Kriya Yoga. And I find it very helpful because, among other things, it helps you get a sense of this flow of energy in the inner spine. So in working with Kriya, I've gained more control over my energy. Having gained more control over my energy, my restlessness subsides.
It's very, very different than letting your mind go blank in front of the television. It takes a lot of energy to meditate. If you don't have energy while you're meditating, you go to sleep. Benefits. Wow. There are just so many. I guess I don't know where to begin. It really helped me be more calm and yet focused. One of the goals and one of the things that just helps me in life is to have my mind more still and have my emotions quiet, so they're not troubling me all the time.
Most people think their identity is it's mainly physical, mainly the body, because we come into this world and right away, we're dealing with a physical body, and also the sex of male and female, and then your age is constantly changing, and your job and occupation, all of these, it's mainly on the material level. And that, is very self-limiting. It puts a certain constraint on who you are or what you are, and then you have to act within those boxes. But the more I meditate, the more I feel that I am much more identified on that soul level, not just the physical level and not just the mental level, but that soul quality. And the soul is limitless. So when you start to identify with that limitless, you begin to tap into your potential of who you are and what you can accomplish in this world.
A very fundamental part of what we do is what we call education for life, for children. And our schools are called Living Wisdom Schools.
This school has a primary focus on sort of the deeper underlying aspects of kids and what each individual kid, pertaining on what age that they are, what's best for their growth. It's a much more, I think, advanced system of learning.
Everybody's so concerned about training the intellect these days, but for true success and happiness, you have to train the person. And the intellect naturally follows if you train the person. And training the person means to have them understand who they are in relation to a greater reality, not to dogmatize them into any religion, but to teach them about their own nature, how to control their energy, how to work with their moods and emotions, how to concentrate, how to understand who they are and what their abilities are, how to get along with other people, how to choose happiness. And if you create an atmosphere for children in which they're secure and happy and supported, education is effortless. The reason we're having so much difficulty in our schools right now is because they're child torturous. They put small children into little desks and hold them there from a tiny age. And they imagine, and they're scared to death because they're all being measured for things they don't understand, and then they have trouble learning.
Yes, it really is a how to live school, how to become a well-rounded human being and not just how to get 100 on a test score, So very rarely does a day go by with one of our older Ananda members not mentioning how they wish they would have grown up in a school like this. So
we live in very changing times, and old solutions are not going to work for what's going on right now. I think we need revolutions from the ground up. And I say, friends, why not? What have we got to lose? Let's expand our hearts and minds and live as we know we are meant to live.